Okay, welcome. It's just gone 11 o'clock here in Melbourne. Today you're joined by a couple of the BGL team members. My name is Matt Crofts. I'm Head of Product. I've got 25 years experience with SMSF, CPA and SSA. So today is my great pleasure to take you through all the changes that we've made in the last 2 months and give you a bit of an update on SuperStream and really try to help you out using the software is really my job today. Bit of housekeeping. The webinar is being recorded, so you don't need to take furious notes. You'll get a copy of this. All attendees will receive an email with a copy of the slides and a link to download a YouTube video. Questions, I've got Eric and I've got Sid. Eric worked on our SuperStream project, answering any questions. Feel free to type those into the Q&A. And I've got Sid, who works in the compliance team, has got a lot of knowledge around the compliance aspects of Simple Fund 360. So this is your chance to speak to the guys that build 360 and ask questions as I go through. So let's make a start. We've got about 45, 50 minutes today. I should have some time for recapping some of the questions, but the first thing I wanted to start with, and something I know you're all struggling with, is SuperStream. So SuperStream went out on 1st of October. We actually released about a week before that. We now have 6,800 funds using our new BGL ESA. So if you missed that webinar, jump onto YouTube. We did a very comprehensive webinar all about SuperStream, what you needed to be aware of. Here's just a quick summary. Australia Post are only really doing contributions. They're working on doing the rollover components of the new requirements for SuperStream, which you can now do rollovers, or you have to now do rollovers electronically. And BGL basically created our new ESA, where you've got the full gamut of available solutions. So you can still stay with Australia Post if you're just got a accumulation fund and there's no rollovers or no release authorities. You can still stay with Australia Post and wait for them to release their update. Or, as 6,800 funds have already done, switch to our BGL ESA. Both are included in the price of the software. But just be aware, talk to Australia Post about just when they're likely to get their rollovers out. They were saying late November, but you'd best speak to themselves about that. Some good news with SuperStream is we're seeing some payments. I spoke to some clients this week and there's some real positives. Clients seeing rollovers happen in a 48-hour period from the time they send out the request to the money being deposited in the bank account. We've had about 4,350 rollovers processed and RAs processed through the software. And as I said, jump onto our YouTube channel, just type in BGL Corp Solutions or BGL SuperStream webinar. You'll see it there. It's had over 1,000 hits already, and we go into much more detail. Some of the common problems, I've asked the support guys and the team just what they're dealing with. So this is really to help you guys out and give you some tips. When you're rolling out of an SMSF to APRA, we know some of the APRA funds have been difficult. I'm not going to name names here, but we're certainly working with the ATO. Some of the APRA funds are struggling with the new requirements. To make it easier, look, I've seen some APRA funds even request bank statements and certified copies. But really, to make it easier, make sure you check the APRA's funds ABN. We've seen a number of instances where people are putting in maybe the parent company's ABN, okay? And that parent company ABN really is not going to help you. So what you need to do is put in the correct ABN and the correct USI details. The employer notification letters are also a common problem we're seeing with the software. So in that case, what we're asking is make sure you switch your ESA, okay? You can't do the old ESA with 360. You've got to use the new BGL 360 ESA. Sorry, guys, just had some background noise there. But the employee notification letters, what you need to do there is make sure that you've cleared the default badge or go to the default badge. We're seeing some people print out the employer notifications and it's still showing the old ESA. That's generally because you've edited the template in the software. So just go and fix that up. Either go back to the default report template in the report screen, or basically just change your template to use the new ESA. So that's when you've got to notify, you know, the challenge when you switch to our new ESA is you've got to notify the tax office, and you've also got to notify if they're receiving contributions, the employer. That's something we're trying to improve with the tax office. We think it's a little bit silly that you've got to register with SuperStream and register with the payroll and with the ATO, but that's the way it is at the moment. So just be aware of that. We are seeing a number of these errors as well, where you'll see rollover 3X compliant, a sort of cryptic error message. That's generally an indication if you're getting that message back, or if you're getting called up by one of the APRA funds saying that you're not compliant, make sure you've switched to the new BGL SA and make sure you've notified the ATO. You need to go onto the tax agent portal or onto the business portal. Okay, so that's just something to watch out for. The other one is we're seeing clients get a little bit stuck when they do a rollover, a roll-in request, and it just sits there and says awaiting validation. All right, when it says awaiting validation, there's really two types. It's either a roll-in or a roll-out. Effectively, you've sent it to the APRA fund, but they're waiting to process it. They've really got 3 days to process it. What you really want to be doing there is really, it's waiting for that external party, that transferring fund, to check the fund details, check the member details. We've got a great FAQ on all the different validation errors. Yep, I can see a question pop up. Yep. You do, you know, the questions just popped up, you know, do I notify the ATO just on the tax return? You really should be notifying the ESA change through the tax agent portal or through the business portal. It's immediate that way. The tax office records get updated immediately, okay? And they're checking, the APRA fund is checking that the fund is registered with an ESA provider. That's something they have to look up the tax office records and check whether the SMSF is compliant, check whether it's got the correct ESA. So if you haven't notified the ATO and you're seeing that message, make sure you jump on the ATO website. Don't wait for the annual return. If you lodge the annual return, it should notify the ATO, but we're talking about the ATO. It's best to go through the requirements that they're saying is go onto the portals, update the ESA. It's not too hard. It's just a drop-down box and you switch it. I know if you've got thousands of funds, it's not easy, but just be aware of that. Back on the validation messages, there is a great FAQ. Just type in FAQ SuperStream and error messages, and you'll see all the different types of error messages you may see. It's great. The documentation team and Eric and the team's done a great job in releasing all that. The other main reason with the rollout validation, awaiting validation, is we're seeing people not put the payment reference number in. You've got to use the payment reference number that's generated in the software to make the bank transfer. The APRA funds are very specific. They want to match, they've got thousands and thousands of members. They want to match that payment reference number to the actual request that had the payment reference number. So just be aware of that. That's where we're seeing some get stuck. So I'll jump in, and we've tried to make it a lot easier in the software by enabling this extra service called the fund validation service. Originally, we had a number of issues connecting to this service because it was really designed for APRA funds, but the team persisted and got through, and this was just added recently. So if you haven't done a rollover recently, you may not have seen this button. So I'll jump into the software. And we're going to go, if you haven't been into the SuperStream dashboard, This is where you register the funds or change the ESA. You select all the funds, you can do it in batch, and you can change the ESA, but you need to change the ESA here and notify the ATO as well as notify the employer. So we'll go into this fund. And here I've already processed a rollover request. The rollover transaction has been prepared. You've selected all the details. And down the bottom, this is what I was saying earlier. Make sure you enter the correct USI and ABN. We've seen a number of funds put in the holding party, rather than the individual funds ABN. Make sure you go to strict detail, look at the member statements you're rolling into, and make sure it's showing the real APRA funds ABN, not the holding company's ABN. A lot of these CommBank, Colonial First State have multiple funds with different ABNs. Generally, it's a general rule, we've looked through all the data, that the USI is sort of matching the ABN. It's not a blanket rule. I'm not up to the standards of what the USI is. It's more a requirement, but a lot of the funds I've seen, that ABN is sort of got an extension of the USI. It's normally a good indication. We are going to do some more validations where we can around the USI. We've had a couple of clients request us do a bit more validation. But what you can now do is retrieve the bank details. So assuming, we've seen a lot of APRA funds make it very difficult for you guys to try to get the bank details. We didn't anticipate that because previously the bank details were available. You had to do it on paper or you got emailed the bank details to do the rollover, or your member did or your advisor did. Now with the electronic thing, we tried to make that easier. So that's what the fund validation service does. Once you put the USI in, you can then retrieve the bank details. All right, so it's then retrieving that directly from the source. We've had a couple of clients. Say that really, that has been a problem. Some are asking for bank transfer. Just make sure my screen's sharing. My screen is sharing. So sorry, just with that, just retrieve the bank details. Hopefully you can see my screen there. Clicking on this button here, retrieve the bank details. When you click that, it's using the USI to bring those details through. Okay, and we've had some clients say that, the APRA fund's still requesting check. No, it's got to be electronic and it's got to be bank details. The payment's got to be through the bank, the BSB account numbers. It can't be by BPay. It's got to be this. This is the standard that everyone must follow. Okay, so hopefully that clears that up. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to show you was really some of the new features. So we'll jump in to the software. Hopefully you can see my screen now. Just checking. Let's try that again. Okay, great. So we can see the software. Sorry about the technical issues at the moment, but you can see that screen now. Okay, so we'll keep going around the features of the software. We have put a lot in the software as well as SuperStream. SuperStream's keeping us very busy. It's been a 18-month-long project, but we've also managed to put some features out. We've added 4 new feeds recently. We've got Colonial First State. This was something we've really been working on, the Colonial First State wrap and the Colonial First State wrap feed for probably about 6 years now. So that was just added. If you've got any clients on the Colonial First State wrap, you can now get that data directly into the software. It comes through, you've got to actually go through your advisor. I'll just show you in the software where you go to do that. Close out here. So jump into the feed management screen. And in here, this is where you set up a new wrap. One I've done here already is SMSF wrap. So we've done a few improvements here. If you haven't seen this screen for a while, you've now got, for some of the wraps, the ability to hold separate portfolio codes. So when you set this feed up, you've got to put in the account ID, the CSF wrap provider, but a number of the new wraps have SMA. So SMA is where you've got a portfolio within inside the wrap. So it might be a member has their own specific portfolio. You can now put those portfolio codes. So this particular bank account is segregated inside that wrap. You can now separate those. A little bit of time to set up, but really makes it, if you want to get really detailed investment reporting and matching what's sort of happening in the SMA, then you can now do that. So just be aware that's under the holding account, and I'm just setting that up under there. We also added CGF Accolade. Used to be Patterson's, that's also a new feed. We added Macro Capital and we added Perla Investments. So that's 4 new feeds, and that's really bringing us up to over 300 types of feeds that are available in the software. So always keep going back, having a look at what's available in this feed management screen. We're always continuing to update it. With the CFS, ask your advisor for the login to the CFS platform and turn on the feed. Okay, that's just a tip. We've also done a lot into the report screen. So in the report screen, probably something we got asked for a lot, and especially from our old desktop clients, was being able to access this quick access report menu. So previously, this was all static. I think it used to have the trial balance up. Now, it's just a quick way. Sometimes we know you're running the same report all the time. So this menu can now be customized. Click on this customize. It'll take you into the new report screen. We did a new report screen several releases ago. And one of the new features on that is this quick access menu. So what you can do, if you want to reorder the reports, let's say you're always checking the statement of taxable income, you can drag that up the top, and that can be the main report that sits up the top. Maybe you don't use the general ledger much anymore. So you can basically just go into the reports here, the different types, and just click on them. See this little star? If you use a detailed trial balance a lot and you don't use the standard trial balance, just turn that off. Okay, so you're just hovering over here. You can add up to 12 reports. Once you get over 12, it's going to give me a warning. You're just not enough room. But if we think 12, you know, every client is slightly different, but generally there's a consensus of what reports they do. Jump back to the quick access and just save that. So it's really just a grouping now of the types of reports. And then when you hover over here, you'll see that that's been updated. Okay, so that's how you can access. So basically, no matter what screen you come into, you can really just hover over that and run these reports a lot quicker. Okay, it's good power tip user setting that you can see there. So that's quick access, up to 12 you can customize. We've also added a heap of new reports. We've now got a consent to appoint a trustee. So this is more when you're setting up, initiating A number of clients were asking for that. Application to become a member. These can be all tailored in Word. You just click here and edit the template. And there's also a number of settings for these as well. So you can edit the settings, report dates. In this one, you can choose the member or all members. So that's when you want to become an application to become a member. You can customize these. They're just a Word doc. And then pension payment declaration. We added an extra setting here. This was just a wish list to consolidate the member account. So if you're new to 360, just be aware there's this setting button. There's also common settings here where you can change all the settings in one go. But this is where you change the individual settings here. Okay. Here I can do this consolidated function. When I run that report, just print it to PDF. All right, it'll just consolidate. If this member's got multiple pension accounts, this one I think's got 4, it'll just consolidate the pension declaration so they don't have to sign 4 separate accounts. Okay, you can turn off that signing line as well, but we do have a number of clients that do ask their clients to sign what they have met their minimum. So that's an extra setting there for the pension declaration and 2 new reports. We've also put on the investment summary report. So if I just type in here, a quick way to find a report, just a tip is just search for it. There's so many reports now. I remember the early days of 360, we only had about 40 reports, so they're easy to find. And that investment summary report will be added to that pack. Save that pack so that you can basically have that come up every time you access. So the investment summary, we also added an extra option there. You can group by portfolio category. So similar to how I showed you the SMA categories, you can also group by your own portfolio categories with certain data feeds. It won't work with every, but it works well with the wraps if you want to group by different portfolio categories rather than by the standard chart of accounts. You could always group by GCIS, but this allows you to just group by portfolio grouping. So we'll see that move to other reports as well. That was a wish list from clients. So just be aware that's in there as well. The next one we really added was a lot of improvements around digital signing. It's something that we see more and more clients use the digital signing functionality, whether it's inside our application or whether it's outside. We're continuing to make improvements here. We know it's the future. I get, when I process some funds, it's so easy when you've got your digital signing set up. We know it takes a little bit of time to set up, but it makes it so much easier for your clients just to go into their mobile and click sign, sign, sign. So I'll just show you a couple of things that you need to be aware of that have been made recently. First one, where do you set it up? You go up to this square menu up the top. You go into integrations, this button here, integrations. This is a little bit hard to find. Go into practice apps and go into digital signing. All right, we now support 3 different digital signing providers. We added FewSign a few months ago. All offer different advantages. Some are a little bit lower cost than others, but you've got that choice. The beautiful thing now is you can actually use 2 providers. If you want to switch from one to the other, you can now have 2 signing providers. Previously, you had to shut one off and then wait for all the challenges. If you shutted one off, you would have to wait for all the signed documents to come back in. So clients told us there was an issue, made it hard to switch. So now you can have actually 2 and you can make one the default. So here I've got FewSign as the default. That's just the default setting there, but you'll see there's 2 active. So that's where you set it up. I'll jump out of there and now I'll just show you. So digital signing, we're continuing, even those new reports we just added, they can be digitally signed. We're continuing adding more reports that can be digitally signed. We're listening to you guys. We just added the BAS forms. clients wanted those digitally signed, why not? If you're sending those out quarterly, clients, some clients need to sign them, other clients don't get them signed, but if you do want your clients to sign them electronically, that's now possible. So once you've created your pack, you then click digital signing here. And you'll see here, because I've got two now, I can now switch. It's defaulting to FuseSign, that was the default. But I can also generate a DocuSign pack here as well. Right, here you'll see all the signing parties. This comes out of your contacts. I'll ignore that, it's just consent. That's the new trustee letter I put in there. But one of the cool new features the guys have been working on, and sometimes we were getting this request, Matt, it's great, but I've got a document outside 360 that's not generated in 360 they want to add. It might be an engagement letter, it might be an audit confirmation letter, it might be some other sort of letter that you put out from your advisor. Whatever it is, you can now upload that. So once you've created your pack, it's outside 360, so you can load that up. I'm just going to put in this notification letter as a PDF. So have a look at the help instructions. I haven't got enough time today to show you all how to mark up a document, but you've got to go into Adobe and add signing fields in the requirements that the help file says. You can also upload a Word doc and just use our mail merge field. So Word might be a little bit easier than PDF. And you just add the mail merge fields for the signing party. Once you've added those mail merge fields, you add it in, you tick enable signing, and then you just type the member. In this case, I'm just going to get Donald to sign. I'll just do the one signing, save that. So that's a custom pack now that I've added to the report pack. I'll confirm that. You'll see it pop in the bottom here. You'll see here, this is the documents that I just added this one here as a PDF. Okay, if I click upload third-party documents, which I've done, and confirm, I can turn on SMSF notification, confirm, it'll add that report pack, send out an email, and Bob's your uncle, you're ready to go. So that gives you a lot of flexibility. So yeah, I just saw a client pop up with a question, where do I go to basically find out how to sign a third-party document? Just click on this link here. All right, so upload how to sign a third-party document. There's all the instructions. As I said, I'm a little bit limited to time because there's so much features, but it'll show you all through here how to do that. So it's just in that screen. All right, so that's digital signing. Some huge improvements there. We continue to add more functionality to it. Jumping back, just a cool little feature I like, something we wanted to add for a while, is notes. So on the fund dashboard, you can add your own notes now. We added this probably about 3 months ago, I think now. It's a cool little feature, but we've just added a few more features that clients have been asking for through the feedback channel. If you want to give us feedback, that's how you do it. Just click that feedback button there. And now you can sort of pin. So you can basically go in and edit these documents. All right. Put a date on it to order them. And you can also pin them. So here, this one's pinned. All right. So that's going to appear at the top all the time. You can just click that little next to the pin. And that might be, you know, something you want to be a permanent sort of note. And then the other notes can drop off. Okay. So it's really just some basic workflow. Especially if you haven't picked up a fund for a while and you may not pick it up for next year, you want to write some notes there. So that was just a cool little feature I wanted to show if you weren't aware. Other things that clients have been asking for that you may not be aware is our investment dashboards continuing to grow. These are the same dashboards that are available for your clients on the mobile. But what we added here is the ability to just benchmark against the ASX top 200. So here, if you want to see how you're performing over a 1 year period against a benchmark, you can just select that here. And that's the same on our mobile solution. So we're trying to make sure you see exactly what the mobile experience is. So if you get any queries from clients, you're seeing the same. Same with time weighted. You'll see there in the time weighted, the S&P ASX 200 there as well. So you can see that switch on and switch off. A little bit hard to see on a 1 month time period. Maybe year to date would be best. Yeah, on this one, it's a little bit hard because it's pretty flat, but you can see that there. So that's a new wish list that clients were asking. Next one I want to show you was we're continuing to build automation in. We know we're not a fully automated software solution. You guys have still got to do the processing, but we are listening on how we can make the drudgery of processing a fund smarter and smarter. So what we added recently was a few more functions around the rules. The machine learning is great. Those who haven't seen the machine learning, it's making assumptions, but sometimes you've got more complex stuff that you need to split a pension payment. Here's 50K that's come in. So I want to split that. Previously, you could always split it just using the split function, but it was a bit manual. Clients were saying, oh, can I create a rule around it? So what the team's been looking at that feedback is just trying to make these rules a little bit smarter. And one of the brainy clients came up and said, why don't you just have a function? Let me just split this pension payment here through by dollar amount. So, you know, the client's just putting 50K through their pension or 5K, whatever it is. And they just want to allocate the first 20 to that member. And they wanted to allocate the rest to the remaining member rather than having to split it. You know, it's not always, the client may put in, you know, their living expenses might go up. Inflation in the US is certainly going up. So it's probably timely that we add this feature. So you can now use this rest checkbox. So you could have three, you know, if you had 3 members in here or 3 different pension accounts, you could put in, you know, 3, keep adding it and just put the rest into an account. All right, might be good for expenses. Rental is another example where you might want to use this rest. Just recapping, you've got to select the dollar here for the rule. Okay, selecting the dollar here, not the percentage. Percentage won't show you the rest. It'll just be a dollar amount, but quite handy for some scenarios. I'm sure you can create some scenarios in your mind at the moment. Once you do that, it'll create the rules around it and match all future transactions against with any of that narration. So quite a handy tip there. We also did add GST to the rules recently as well. So just if you have a GST fund, this one doesn't have it, but it'll show you the GST if you want to have that as a rule as well. So there's some handy tips just there on the smart matching screen. How are we going for time? Yeah, pretty good. So the next one, can't go through every feature these days. The guys are just struggling. I'm struggling to keep up with all the features they put in these days. But that's it. The software just keeps improving. The main things I wanted to show you that I think you get the biggest benefit from was, I think it was in here, the Workpapers, yeah. We're continuing adding more features to the Workpapers. And I was doing a demo with a client the other day and they said, what do you mean by Workpapers? Everyone's got a different definition of Workpapers. We understand that. But really, this is almost, if you haven't seen our Workpaper screen, it's almost like a bit of a workflow screen, a bit of a document repository. You don't necessarily have to use all the checkboxes. You can use it as just a document sorting screen. It generates all your reports. This is one of the big things that saves me time when I process funds is I'm probably going into the report screen, probably only about 20% of the time that I used to spend in the report screen. I'm spending, when I process a fund, 80% of my time in here now, just because it does all the reports. It does it in the background. It runs all the Workpaper type reports, you know, capital gains reports there. You'll see I haven't done a full trade entries on this fund, and it'll show me the statuses, so I can make notes here and do all sorts of stuff. What we added recently was just an update for the warning for the new work test for 75. So you'll see that warning observation. It's got all the data in the software, so it's just handy. If you haven't seen Workpapers before, it'll show you here the warnings down the right-hand side, and that's just one of the new warnings we've added. So that's why it's not just Workpapers, it's a bit of workflow, a bit of documents as well that you want to look at. The other one we added into Workpapers recently was in here in the bank accounts. So this fund's got some multiple bank accounts. Here I've got a Bank of Melbourne. I think I've just got to jump into the 2020 year. For Bank of Melbourne here. So here I've uploaded a few bank statements, right? And I've shown this previously in a webinar. What we're getting at smarter and smarter technology. This is where BGL is just smashing the competitors in making sure that when you upload a document, we're actually trying to read it. And I'll show you a little bit more about that. But I uploaded a Bank of Melbourne document here. I'll show you the document. This is it here. You can get a preview. I've sanitized it. It's a real bank statement, but it picks up the 30th of June balance. All right, it's looking for this balance here when you upload the document. Stuff that you guys do day in, day out without thinking. The machine's starting to think about this now. I know you guys need to look for 30th of June. Why not read that? Put that into the Workpapers you'll see here. All right, we know the AI is not as intelligent as you. It's still about probably, I'd say, early adulthood, maybe a wily teenager some days. We know the machine has its days, but it certainly can help. It reads the bank statement on this one. You can override it now. So if it gets it wrong, you can put it in there, whatever it is, and you can say, no, machine learning, you were wrong, just to make you feel, you can only go that. I always say to my kids, be nice to the machine. It may come back and be our boss at some point. So maybe it's good that I didn't put the wrong word in there. Jokes aside, though, you can put that in there. So you can put little notes in there and override. So that was just something clients were asking for when you upload a bank statement, and machine learning may not get it right 100% of the time. We continue to improve it, though. So that's Workpapers. Have I got time to show you? Yeah, I might just jump in and show you what we've done here recently in SmartDocs CG2. So this is a bit of where we're heading with SmartDocs as well. We continue to add new reports in here. It's really this list of reports you'll see down here, where basically great for setting up opening balances. We just added this new one for Evans and Partners, an unrealised CGT, so they get a year-end tax report. They were previously keying that in. They wanted to read that document into here. So this document's been sanitised. But what I'm uploading here is a PDF. You'll see it pop up in a second. But we're expanding this all the time. We're looking to go rental statements. In fact, we're already started on rental statements. We're working on tax statements. We're working on invoicing. Some clients are asking us to read sections out of trust deeds. But we're continuing to build SmartDocs, and you'll see early next year, I'd say, some real big improvements into this screen. I might show you a little bit of it as well. So what we're doing here is we're reading the investments out of this document and reading all the transactions. Okay, so here it's reading all the dates, the amounts, and the debits and credits. This is a massive document. This is something like a 20-page document, and it's found the information it needs on page 12. So by the time I even get to page 12, it's read the whole document. All right, so that's just an example. If you've got some unrealized CGT reports and you need to get that history into the software, just going into accounting, Smart Docs CGT. Just a quick tip for those that are new, you can always just type Smart Docs here and it will give you a link. All right, I even mistyped it, so it still found it. So that's our Smart Docs. You'll see this screen expand a lot more. We also added, I'll jump back into the slides now. We've covered most of those items now. End of year tax statements. We added 7 new corporate actions. I'm not going to show you the 7 corporate actions, just be aware we continue to add the corporate actions as we get them from the ASX. Continue to let us know if there's something we don't cover. Sometimes the ASX may report it a little bit slowly. So let us know through the feedback channel. That's just how you add a field in Adobe if you wanted to add a signing field. That's detailed in the help file I was going to earlier. So this is what I was saying with Smart Docs. I showed you that we're getting end of year tax statements. We've pretty much completed a lot of that work, so you'll see that come out. Adding rental statements, more tax statements, more invoicing. All right, so you'll see this continue to improve early into the new year. We're also adding a new, what are we working on next? We're also adding a investment summary group by portfolio. So you'll see more investment income reports by broker, by provider here. So you'll see continuous improvements to break down the investment reports. So we're looking at adding more types of investment reports by portfolio. We're also working with Xero to do a direct dump. Currently, you can do a file dump into Xero Tax, but we're looking to make that more automated, which will come out next release. So everything I've shown you so far is already in the software. I'm just talking about what we're working on next. So we're working on a connection with Xero to send to Xero Tax. We know a lot of you guys use Xero Tax. If you want to lodge your tax return in there, we're going to make that a little bit simpler to connect. You won't have to do, at the moment, it's a little bit tricky. You have to do a full validation in the software. So we're removing a few steps out of that process and just making it more streamlined, faster, and see the statuses as well come through. We're also working on a new document screen. So this is sort of a very early beta. I didn't want to sort of bring it up. Just wanted to give you a heads up. We are listening. Anyone that's using digital signing does tell me it's a little bit hard, Matt, to find the documents once I've made them sign in the existing document screen, or they're searching for particular documents. The existing search in the existing document screen is a little bit old. It was actually, I think it's actually hitting 9 years of age now, so it's pretty old in the web. It used to be part of the old document screen, used to be part of our portal, and we ported it into 360. So it's well overdue for an overhaul. It's going to have some cool features, and what we're going to do is blend what I showed you just with Smart Docs. Is we're going to blend that Smart Docs screen into the document screen, so that any document you upload, we're going to try to read it and make it usable, right? It's all about, the machine learning is all about making that document usable rather than just be a static PDF that you're trying to copy and paste out of. We're going to try to give you fields, you know, whether it's rental income or whether it's distribution tax fields. We're going to try to link it so it makes it easier to report. We're also, if those with a keen eye will see what we're doing here, is that sort of a work paper type view with folders. So anytime you upload a document in here or email it to the system, it's going to file it into where it thinks it should go. So if it sees it's a rental statement, it's going to file it under rental. If it sees it's an unrealized report, it's going to file it under the 776 area. or if it's going to be a signed doc, it should be under the permanent doc. So that's where we're going to build much more intelligence and have a fully blown document smart engine that should make your life easier. All right, so that's just a bit of an insight from where we're heading and what we're next. So thank you for tuning in. I do apologize. I had a couple of technical issues. My audio started talking to me in the background, but hopefully I've shown you really what my job today was, to give you a few tips and tricks of what the software can do. It's so hard to keep up, I know, with all the features we put out, but it's a thank you to you, because it all comes a lot from feedback from you guys that really drives this software. So I really appreciate you taking your time to learn the software, and good luck with your SuperStream. I'll take a pause here. I will hang around for a little bit. I'm just going to review the questions. If you got to get going, we're hit right on time, 45 minutes, right on time. But if you want to hang around and ask me a few questions, I'm here for another 15 minutes. So I'm just going to take a pause and read through some of the Q&As at the moment.